So we're here at Riverfront Park in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and getting ready for a sojourn. A lot of people are going to be out in the environment today, enjoying the river, enjoying all of the environmental things that we have here, and most importantly, giving us another reason to say proud to be from Pottstown.
Hi, my name is Johnny Corson, president of Pottstown chapter of the NAACP.
My name is Randy Hawkins, director of the Ricketts Center in Pottstown, Pennsylvania.
The Pottstown NAACP has a long history with the Ricketts Center. We have been supporting the Ricketts Center, and one of the initiatives that Fred brought to the NAACP and the Ricketts Center is expose people to kayaking down the river and the outdoors through nature, and also get a chance to find out the Black history along the Schuylkill River.
And the Delaware Riverkeeper Network's thrilled to be partnering with NAACP and the Ricketts Center. These guys are great partners. They opened their doors up and so we can do presentations to the community on environmental awareness and watersheds and that sort of thing. We have tree planting coming and more learn to fish and paddling trips on the horizon too. So it's a good day.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, Fred, for teaching our youth and at the Ricketts Center, teaching them how to fish, how to use the rod, throw the rod, put the bait on.
Not get hurt.
Yeah,
not get hurt.
We appreciate it. We appreciate
that.
And having patience with the younger generation.
And you see where all the fish went.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really easy stretch out there. You guys are doing just about 8 miles today with your guys' stop about midway. There's tons of stuff out there. You see a bald eagle's nest, you might see a river otter. You'll be lucky if you see him. He's pretty elusive, but there's a couple of them on this half of the river, on the upper side. So let's go down there. We just slowly start getting on. Just be patient as we pick out boats for you, and we'll hop on the water.
If you'd like to join me over here. All right, folks, my name is Justin Clement. I'm the Historic Site Supervisor at Pottsgrove Manor. So I wanted to talk a little bit about African-American history within this general region. So Pottsgrove Manor, they're involved in the iron industry, and that really factors into this entire area. You have the movement of a lot of goods that is occurring on the Great Road that runs from Reading to Philadelphia, parallel to the Schuylkill River, but you also have a lot of goods that are being moved on the river itself. So the river really is important, especially after the canal system comes into play. Once they start creating locks, alongside the river, that lock system allows for more boats to move up and down the river, transporting goods, and it becomes really critical with not just the iron industry, but if you think about coal becomes a much bigger factor in the 19th century. Now, the Potts family, they are mostly known for the 18th century time period in terms of being iron masters. And during that time, you see a lot of African Americans who are part of the domestic household labor of the various Potts families in the area, including the household of John Potts in Pottstown, but as well as the iron industry as a whole. So, the important thing to consider is that you do see, a lot of different individuals who are either free, indentured, or enslaved, all three types of labor, right? So by free, these are free wage laborers. They are collecting pay for the work that they do. And this could be contract labor. It can be maybe half a day's wages, full day's wages. So it could be a wage basis or based upon output. Now, indentured servants, these are also often called redemptioners because they're redeeming the cost of the transatlantic voyage from Europe to America. But in an African American context, usually what we're seeing are individuals who are in an indenture arrangement because they are going to be given their freedom at the end of a certain period of time. So they're basically working on an indenture. It's called an indenture, but it's basically the name for a contract. When you see the word indenture, it just means contract. So they're contracted to work for an extended period of time, maybe a period of years without pay, and at the end of that time, they gain their freedom. Now, we do see, in addition to that, African American enslavement is something occurring in Pennsylvania, just like it is in all 13 colonies prior to the American Revolution, right? So, in the instance of the local economy, the local Potts family, and the iron industry, we do see a lot of different stories of people who are gaining their freedom. So I want to show an example here of a document. This is for Chester County. It is a register of enslaved African Americans in Chester County in 1780. And the reason this register was created is because Pennsylvania passed the Gradual Abolition Act. What this meant was that anyone born after that date would be born free. This is an act that's meant to slowly abolish slavery in Pennsylvania. But if you were born prior to the passage of that act in 1780, then you were going to be enslaved for life. So there are a number of names on here, and here you see the name of the enslaver, Thomas Potts, who is the individual living at Pottsgrove Manor at that time in 1780. And we have a number of names: Cudge or Cujo, Ben, Peter, George, Moll, Sal. Many of these we believe to be siblings. Benjamin and Peter, they both gained their freedom. Actually, all of these individuals gained their freedom just 3 years later in 1783. Even though it says a slave for life written in the registry, Thomas Potts had a change of heart just 3 years later. And we actually do have their manumission documents. Manumission documents basically being freedom papers. And this is an example of the freedom papers for those same individuals that Thomas Potts had claimed ownership over. We see here in the name Peter. So this is Peter Sebastian. He ends up being apprenticed as a shoemaker after this, ends up being not only the first black landowner in Pottstown, but he buys a house in 1791. And he actually, shows up in census records, church records, ends up being one of the co-founders of the AME Church, so the African Methodist Episcopal Church in Pottstown. He ends up as one of the co-owners, as well as some of his nephews, as well as his brother Benjamin. So we see quite a story locally where we have these stories of individuals gaining their freedom. This is another example of a manumission document, and the name here is Gin, or it looks like Gin, but it's short for Guinea. Guinea Cane, this is an individual who was enslaved as early as the 1750s, gains his freedom probably around 1769 by Joseph Potts, and he eventually has this set of manumission papers drawn up in 1788, making sure that he maintains his freedom. Shows up in census records as well. And Guinea Cane is one of 4 different black iron workers where we can actually trace them to the present day. So Pottsgrove Manor is doing a lot of research right now, exploring iron industry records, to recover their lost stories, kind of rebuild their biographies, and also trace their lines of descent to find living descendants alive today. I actually have this binder here with over 700 names of descendants of 4 different black iron workers. So Peter and Benjamin Sebastian, Guinea Kane, and Andrew Tarr. The Tarr family we can trace as early as 1721. And, you know, if you wanted to flip through this quickly, you might see some surnames that you're familiar with. So if you see a surname, you never know if there's someone in your family tree that you might be descended from one of these individuals. So feel free to flip through this really at any point in time. But I do want to mention, though, we are documenting these stories to freedom. We know the Potts family emancipated a number of individuals in 1769, 1782, 83. All of the individuals working at Warwick Furness got freed in 1788. And these journeys to freedom are pretty well documented. Now, I talked earlier about that Gradual Abolition Act. Here you have a chart showing slavery in Montgomery County. And so 10 years later, after the passage of that Gradual Abolition Act, there are still 113 enslaved individuals living in Montgomery County, compared to 440 free blacks who are part of that population. So already within that 10-year period from 1780 to 1790, there are probably several hundred individuals who gained their freedom. But by one more decade, it drops down to 33. Another decade drops down to 3. So you can see very quickly how Pennsylvania is on track to become a free state. And the passage of that act was a big component of that, but there's also moral suasion. You know, the community, particularly the Quaker population, who are trying to pressure individuals to freeing those who are enslaved. So you see the community beginning to gather around the cause of abolition. And we do have some examples where locally there were stations on the Underground Railroad. It appears there was one station in Pottstown. One of the Rutter or Potts family descendants owned a home townhouse in Pottstown, which is one station, and they would send individuals, these are freedom seekers, part of the Underground Railroad, that would be sent over to the Iron Master House in what is now Pine Forge Academy, historically part of Pine Forge. So we do know that there are some local Underground Railroad stations in which they're helping to bring individuals, you know, coming up from the south, north, finding their way to various points where they can gain their freedom. All right, are there any questions for me at all? Yes?
Is that AME church still there?
The congregation is there. The original church from 1812 is no longer there. There was a separate congregation for the AME church founded later in the 19th century. So the first, the congregation today that exists, they have kind of a loose connection to the original 1812 founding and a greater connection to the church founded a little bit later in the same town. But yeah, so not the strongest connection, but it's really great because it lists like 20 different people who are co-founders of that church. And it's almost like a who's who of the iron industry, of all these African-American families with ties to the industry there. Yes?
How did it work at the townhouse that was the station? How did they bring people there and send them on to Pine Forge?
They're mostly moving at nighttime. We don't have a lot of details. It's basically just 1 or 2 oral histories that we have to rely on. And what they're describing is that this was a station and individuals are being moved on to the next station. So they would really only have a very small snippet of information that they know about, because those who are writing about it themselves don't know the most. You know, they have whisperings from their parents' generation, that kind of thing. We do, but I'd have to dig that up. Yeah, I'm not sure if the house is still there today. Other questions? Yes.
How do you is there a template people can use to do living histories within their own families? I mean, I think our kids did them in like 4th and 5th grade and stuff, but
Right.
like in order to do it at a higher level,
Yes.
like as an adult asking your great-grandparent or something. Is there a template that they can go to?
There are lots of resources online as far as that goes. I highly recommend the African American Genealogy Group, AAGG. I'm a member of that organization because of the work I'm doing at Pottsgrove Manor, but a very useful organization. They will often have someone who serves as a mentor to help you with your particular family history. You have a lot of people exploring the DNA to solve mysteries. We don't have the DNA. You know, we're actually working our way forward in time at Pottsgrove Manor, whereas most people are trying to work their way backwards in time. So kind of the particular research that we're doing is a little bit different from most people tracing their own family heritage. But African American Genealogy Group is an amazing resource if you want to become a member. But other than that, it's really just getting into it. You know, if you do Google searches, YouTube videos, there's a lot of information out there for beginners. Yeah, Churchill letters.
Do a lot of the people who are in that documentation, do many of those families still live in the area and still retain their family homes or farms?
For the most part, no. You see most of these individuals who are following the iron industry. So as coal, anthracite coal is starting to be developed as a resource for the iron industry, you tend to have those individuals who are descendants of the black iron workers from the 18th century. They tend to be following the iron industry west. And what you also see is entire branches of the family that end up being canal boat captains on the canal itself. So you see them centered at Port Clinton, and you know, they are basically living there, but you know, when they're not aboard their boats, but for the most part they're living on the canal, living on the actual canal boats. So you do see Potts family descendants who go into the coal industry, go into the canal boat industry transporting coal, or continue working at iron furnaces and forges throughout Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's very interesting just kind of seeing how there always seem to be settling near these centers of iron. Yeah. Other questions? All right, so please do consider Pottsgrove Manor a resource. If you want to learn more about the work that we're doing, about the genealogy of these various families, you know, and to learn about you know, the lines of descent from those that we've been able to identify so far, but also, you know, those biographies, those stories that we're building. There's a lot of really interesting work that we're doing, kind of exploring their stories. So I do encourage you to reach out to us, contact us, learn more, see if you're related to one of these families, which is entirely possible. They're spread out throughout Pennsylvania. But yeah, consider us a resource, and yeah, feel free to explore some of the surnames that we have in the binder here. See if any of them look a little familiar to you. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Paddlers, we want to get underway in about 10 minutes. And once we start paddling, we have about an hour and a half paddle to get down to the takeout. So, a beautiful day. We're just wrapping up with our August 2nd paddle on the Schuylkill, brought to us by the Pennsylvania Environmental Council grant, which was beautiful. We had 18 people out on the water today. Conditions were perfect. It was almost 100 degrees 2 days ago. Then we got swamped with a heavy rain. and today was perfect. So the Delaware Riverkeeper Network is the sponsor of this organization, of this paddling trip. And the Riverkeeper's been around since 1988, which is 36 years. And it's being led by Maya Van Rossum, who is the Delaware River Keeper. And we are engaged in river protection, and we do that through advocacy, advocating for better water quality, better land use, better regulations, better legislation. We're all engaged with that. We have lawyers on staff that fight for enforcement of the Clean Water Act and a lot of the federal regulations and state regulations. And we have volunteer organizers that help communities engage in trying to stop a warehouse or trying to stop improper maintenance of a park that's having a negative impact on the waterway. So the Delaware Riverkeeper Network has been around a while. We have about 24 people on staff, and there's a lot of great events coming up, a lot of advocacy training that people might want to know how to do so they can protect the creeks and streams that flow through their communities. And so we have trainings coming up, scientific outings, more fun outings like today. We have a Learn to Fish program we just started here in Pottstown, which is just so much fun working with little kids, 11, 12, 13 years old, learning how to be out in nature and learning to fish and stuff like that. So a lot of great things with the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. Come to our website, delawareriverkeeper.org, and become part of it. Thank you.